and employment law, governance and leadership with workshops and training, property law, wills, trust and estate planning. For more information, contact AL Inc. on WhatsApp 065 844 347 or email hello@al-inc.co.za. AL Inc., your ally.
Come on out. We got business.
Listen, they're here, or rather, she's here to help you build safer, smarter, and more sustainable workplaces. I'm, of course, talking about Al Incorporated. And joining me is the managing director, Elena Leeuwendaal-Dekin, ever so beautiful. And we joked with her and we said, girlfriend, what is the occasion? Because you are looking absolutely beautiful.
Oh, thank you very much. You mean I don't look like this every week?
No, extra beautiful today, Elena.
Thank
Come
you.
now.
I appreciate it. I did put in some effort.
No, you look stunning.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Happy Tuesday. How are you feeling? I know you and I, shared the same sentiments in terms of just slowly beating this flu. But how you feeling?
I think I had a good rest because of the flu. I was sort of bedridden for a bit. And yeah, like fully recharged and tackled this week like with full force. So happy to be here.
Yeah, glad to have you. As always, we invite you to join in on the conversation. Of course, you can share your comments or even your own experience on said topic. And that is, of course, workplace investigations, how to handle misconduct the right way. And we always encourage you to comment either on Facebook or YouTube under CCFM 107.5 or simply send us a WhatsApp message on 061 798 1075. I always say this, we will have a Q&A session. However, if there is a very urgent question that we could answer, we will see what we can do. Elena, getting straight into it. Now, when we talk about, an internal investigation, what does that look like? When and how should one start an internal investigation?
All right. So when there's any form of misconduct, so last week you'd recall that we spoke about the importance of having clear communication of expectations in a workplace. So via a contract of employment or the written policies. So in your policies or your contract of employment, there will be a code of conduct, that's important for that particular organization.
Yeah.
When an employee disregards that or fails to observe that, then a response is needed from an employer. And I'd say that is when the employer must either respond if it's serious enough to warrant further investigation. Maybe it's theft, but ongoing theft. It's apparent to the organization that theft has been ongoing. It's not just one instant. Then a serious investigation needs to be had, and there's a process to follow when an organization decides to investigate a matter. So to answer your question quickly, yes, when there's an investigation is essential when there is misconduct.
Fantastic. And I also want to, again, encourage you, family, if you have had personal experience and you want to share with us on the WhatsApp line, feel free to do so. I'm sure we've all, seen how mishandled investigations can lead to damaged reputations, staff resentment, or even legal blowback. And this is why we have these conversations with Elena. And then in terms of, you spoke about a process, who should then conduct these investigations, be it internal or external?
Investigations can be handled internally, but the test for any organization to have it internal or external will be objectivity. Whether the organization is in a position to exercise objectivity on the investigation and the matter going forward. So if it gets to a place and space where it is a disciplinary inquiry, can the organization remain objective in their finding and assessing the evidence. Also, instances where it's a senior staff member, it's advisable to get external investigators involved, and when there's clear risk of conflict or bias, so the organization may not be able to exercise objectivity, and of course, when the issue is so serious that it could lead to litigation. So there's a lot of controversy around the issue in dispute or whatever the case may be, and it could escalate to some sort of litigation that could be anticipated. I would say from the outset, get an independent or external expert in employment law, labor related matters to handle the investigation process. I do want to just add, to go back to your first question.
Yeah.
I don't think issues of trigger points for investigation is also where there's a formal complaint. So a grievance, a staff member may lodge a grievance. That could also be, a trigger for an investigation to be held. And then other type of reports, from employees on a particular issue or particular person involved. So there's quite a number of triggers, I think. But the point is that when something happens in an organization, and the organization now has an opportunity to set the record straight, or develop the culture. So every misconduct or every opportunity to bring an employee in line or bring in corrective action is an opportunity to form culture, because that's what we talked about last week, right? The importance, why policy is important, because it forms the culture. Is this organization going to be an organization zero tolerance to profanities, zero tolerance to pornography on usage on the internet, whatever the case may be? It is always an opportunity to form culture when something happens.
Yeah. Now, talking about policies, we also mentioned last week the importance of updating our policies.
Oh, 100%.
Now, in relation to documentation, when it comes to investigations, be it internal or external, how important are documents, and also keeping record of documents?
Well, 5 stars for you for listening last week. Well done. So yeah, it's very important, because every dispute is still a dispute, and the decision has to be substantiated, because an employee at any stage can lodge a complaint at the CCMA, saying that, look, I was treated unfairly, the proper process wasn't followed. Remember, when you interrogate the evidence, you have to be both substantively fair and procedurally fair, and both has to be present in order for a dismissal to be fair. So you have to make sure that you keep a proper record of all the evidence, all the documentation that led up to a response, by the organization, because the employee always has the opportunity to challenge the decision. And so when they challenge it, you want to be in a position to present a defendable case.
And then I want to go to, maybe someone is saying, that's all good and well, but I still want to protect my privacy. Can you still have an internal investigation, but still protect my privacy? How does that work, and when does that become a question?
100%. So the organization has the prerogative to hold anyone accountable for certain conduct that is unacceptable in that organization, but that is limited. So the organization must remember, if you are because we're talking about the investigation process, you're in the elementary stage of the disciplinary process, as you will, right? So you have to be careful because you are still innocent until proven guilty.
Yeah.
And even then, even if the individual is guilty, depending on the seriousness of the offense, you don't necessarily want to advertise, this is what the person did, or, well, it depends. It's on the situation. But in most cases, you do want to announce, once a person's found guilty, this is the decision, this is why the organization did this is how we went about, through the process, because it obviously, you want to, as an organization, you want to demonstrate that certain behavior is unacceptable.
Yeah.
And and what is not, so but in an investigation process, you haven't tested the veracity of the evidence yet. The person hasn't had an opportunity to put their version forward. So you only have this one-sided version. Yes, you're collecting all this information. So you don't want to create, an atmosphere in your workplace where you advertising, for example, this person is now on suspension and, investigating this, and, you want to protect the integrity of the process. And credit to the individual that he still has a right, to interrogate the charges that will be leveled against him. And we're still in the investigative process. So the organization doesn't have to advertise, okay, this person is now on suspension. And the organization can use other words, like the person is absent for a certain time, and the time is maybe 2 weeks, and during that person's absenteeism, you will report to Mr. X. So there's ways and means of managing the information that you relay to the entire organization. I've had instances where a director of an organization is suspended because there's now an external investigation. So we had to manage very carefully how we announce, this investigation. Well, the legal team, yes, but we were instructed by the board. And so that was a very important consideration. Like, this person still may actually come back into the organization, may have to still leave this organization. So you can't just say, because it causes within the organization. It causes
it
a
shifts
little
the
bit
culture.
of uncomfortability. 100%. How would you feel like, oh wow,
no, absolutely.
And then you must report to the same person that will maybe hold you accountable for something that person was charged for, which isn't fair and which isn't a healthy culture, to cultivate. So keep the information close to your chest. Keep the integrity, or keep the integrity in the process, and you do that by giving limited information, only what is necessary, and let management deal with the other things, that it's impossible to not disclose when somebody is an essential part of the business is the person holds an essential part in the organization, and now the person isn't there. Of course you have to inform, but there is a way to do it without creating an atmosphere where suppositions can be made.
And protecting the person's integrity, as you
100%,
say.
Yes.
Just before we wrap up, and this is leading to my next question. Now, in the event, and this is why we have these conversations, Elena, in the event that, a process such as an investigation is not even done, and a person is just straight out dismissed, is there hope for that person? How do they go about dealing with that?
Well, yes, there is hope. So every decision made by an employer it can be challenged at the CCMA. So from the date you dismiss, you have 30 days to go and lodge your claim with the CCMA. Don't let it prescribe. And then you have to demonstrate that you were actually unfairly dismissed, or you were dismissed, without proper process, sort of prima facie. On the face of it, the process seemingly is unfair. And then after that, once you as an employee have crossed over that threshold, then it's a prerogative of the employer to demonstrate to the commissioner or the CCMA that the process that was followed is fair and equitable it is, and I remember, it's fair only if it's substantively and procedurally fair. So you can have good reason, yes, but did you follow the process? So everything is important, if, as far as labor law is concerned. So you can't afford as an organization to miss steps or rush into a process, because it does cost the organization a lot more when you have to defend a case, that you could have just, averted by following due process.
Listen, if you are an organization, perhaps you are a director of an organization and you are finding this information very helpful, worry not. We will leave Elena's contact details just before we wrap up the conversation. Workplace investigations, how to handle misconduct the right way. And of course, just before we wrap up, Elena, I know that you are going to be hosting something very interesting soon. But what are your closing words to our listeners as we wrap up the conversation?
So next month, actually, so it's not next week, I beg your pardon. So it's next month. So we're not in May yet. Eh? So
don't rush us.
June. So in June, we will be hosting several webinars covering employment related matters, and it will be free, and you will then have an opportunity to engage me directly, to ask me specific questions, but it then has to be around the subject matter that we're covering in that particular webinar. But you'd be able to find out that information if you WhatsApp us at 0658444 347. Alternatively, you can email us at hello@l-inc.co.za. But if you missed all of that, you can just email CC or WhatsApp rather CCFM, and then someone will send our information to you. But do check us out on LinkedIn, on Facebook. You'll be able to find all this information on those platforms as well.
Fantastic. Just to confirm, it's happening in June. Is that correct?
Yes, it's happening in June.
All right. And it is a workplace misconduct webinar.
Yeah, there are free webinars, but there's also paid webinars. But because of the segment, we decided, let's open it up, for an hour, maybe before the paid, or I don't know how we're going to incorporate it yet. That's left to the team on the ground. But we thought it would help.
Fantastic. And anyone can attend? Anyone
who registers beforehand and is given the invitation, the link, can attend.
There you have it. That was Elena Lievendal. And of course, if you missed this conversation, you've just got into your car, worry not. We have it on Facebook as well as YouTube at CCFM 107.5. We do see your questions, Roslyn, on Facebook as well, but we will have a Q&A session much like we did last month, where you are then free to send through any questions that you have pertaining to the conversation. That's CCFM 107.5 on Facebook as well as YouTube, or simply send me a WhatsApp on 061 798 1075. If you want to join the webinar and you're wanting more information, again, drop me a text on that same WhatsApp number, 061 798 1075. Thank you so much, Elena, for your time.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me. It's so quick, eh?
I know. It's like 15 minutes goes
Time flies
so quickly. There you have it. We've got traffic in a bit. And as mentioned, you can re-listen to this video. You can share it with someone if you'd like to. Mario, sir, we see your message as well. As mentioned, we will have a Q&A. And if it is a matter of urgency, someone will be in touch with you. 17:35, it's the CCFM Drive.